After a quarrel with the bride, he dropped her out in the cold in the morning. He heard this on the news. Stanislav used to live with his rich parents, and he was getting everything he wanted, so they made sure to provide everything he wanted. The young man got used to that and was spending money lavishly. His father used to buy him luxury cars and precious gifts every time, and when the young man turned 18, he bought him a luxurious apartment in the city center. However, Stanislav refused to live in and preferred to live with his parents because he finds everything ready for him. Although the father, Constantine, was noticing that his son was not right, his wife, Katia, told him that everything would be fine and that her son had the right to enjoy his life as other rich young men do. The mother loved her son so much, as was Stanislav, who could never leave her. Although the family is rich, Katia refuses to let anyone enter the restaurant, as she is the one who cooks food for her son and her husband, and they both love her food a lot. Constantine never stopped blaming his son for every mistake he made, especially when he drove too fast on the street and wrote about him in the newspapers. Every time he blamed him and asked him to stop his bad behavior, the boy was always hiding behind his mother, who didn't hesitate to defend him and stood by his side. On one occasion, the father told his wife that their son did not want him to stop his reckless behavior and that they should get him married because that might make him rational. But Katya refused and thought that her son was still young, and Stanislav also refused because he didn't want to marry at that age and deprive himself of enjoying his life without obligations. The mother knew that her husband's words were logical while he was thinking about his son's desire, but she was compassionate and supported her son even if he was wrong. This was what bothered Constantine a lot, and told her that she would regret what she did one day, because if their son continued in this situation, he would be out of their control and would not be successful in his future life. When the boy met his friend and told him that his father wanted him to marry, his friend told him that this is a suitable opportunity for him to ask him for more money, and he will stop interfering in his personal life completely and become free in everything he does. Stanislav was very impressed by what his friend said. When Stanislav came home and found guests there, his father's friend and family came to visit them. When the boy entered and greeted them, he looked at the young Yulia, the daughter of his father's friend, as he sat with her, talking and admiring her a lot. The young woman was beautiful, intelligent, and spoke a lot about books and languages, while Stanislav spoke about cars, phones, and video games. The two spent a long time together, and when Constantine noticed this, he approached his son and offered to marry Yulia because she was a suitable young woman for him, but the young man fell silent and refrained from responding. On that night, the young man went to his friend and asked him to help him, as he wanted him to have an obedient young woman who would apply all his orders, in order to marry her and live his life as he wants, and tell him that Yulia is from a rich family and will not accept that. Sasha said that an obedient wife could not be found in the city, but rather in the village, because the young women there are calm and content. In addition, he offered him to go the next day to the villages surrounding the city and search there for a young woman with the specifications he wanted. The young man got up in the morning, went to his parents, and told them that he wanted to marry, but he wanted to choose his wife. He told them he knew a young woman and offered her to start preparing for the wedding. The young man left his parents, shocked by his words, and left the house to see his friend. When the two friends arrived at the first village, they immediately entered the club there and found a group of young women dancing there. Stanislav immediately turned to a young woman who seemed shy and seated on her own and sat with her to get to know her. The young woman, called Tanya, did not speak much, and her face turned red whenever she looked at Stanislav. The young man offered Tanya to marry him and play the wife only in order to please his father, respect her, and not touch her, as he promised her that he would pay him generously, and after a while he would divorce her and return to the village. The young woman was amazed at what Stanislav said and told him that she did not agree with his proposal, but the young man told her that she would not regret and promised her that he would pay her generously. The young man told Tanya that she's a beautiful and intelligent young woman, and this is what made him choose her, because she would be good at playing that role. Then he left her his phone number and asked her to call him if she changed her decision in the future. Stanislav waited for Tanya to call, but this didn't happen, which made his father surprised and pressed him every time to know him and his mother about the young woman he wanted to marry. But the boy tells him that she is shy and not ready to meet them yet. One day, while Stanislav was lying in his room, Tanya called him and told him that she had accepted his offer because she desperately needed the money. Then the young man was happy and asked her to come to the city, but the young woman surprised him when she told him that she was in the city and she was looking for a place to sleep. The young man got into his car and went by, where he found her waiting for him in the street, shivering from the cold. Then she told him that she would fulfill all that he wanted from her on the condition that he find a place for her to sleep in because she came to the city looking for work and did not find him. She told him that her brother was sick and he needed an urgent surgery, so she wanted him to give her the amount of the operation, no less or more. The young man agreed to Tanya's request and took her to sleep in a hotel, and the next day he brought her to meet her parents. When the parents met her, they were amazed at her beauty and asked many questions. The young woman was very clever in answering the couple's questions as if she had known Stanislav for a long time, and she succeeded in convincing them that she would be a suitable wife for their son and would take care of him properly. They were conservative at first because she is from the village, but that didn't matter to Constantine, who had grown up in the village and loved its people very much. The young woman agreed to live with Stanislav in his apartment, which his father bought for him a week until the date of the wedding, and during that time, the young woman made sure to sleep in her separate room. During that period, the two young men were talking to each other and telling each other about his life. Stanislav realized that Tanya loves her family very much and is ready to sacrifice for them. She also learned about the difficult living conditions that they lived in because her father and mother do not work. And her only brother, who used to work and bring them money, got sick and became unable to work, so she wants to collect the money for the operation to treat him. Tanya asked her future husband not to touch her during the period in which she plays the wife, because she does not want anyone to touch her before her real husband. The rest, she is ready to play any role, and she will not let him down because she is such a brilliant actress. The young man, who was affected for the first time in his life, promised the young woman that he would not force her to do anything and that he would fulfill his promise and give her the amount she wanted. The young woman kept tending to Stanislav's apartment those days, cleaning it, preparing food, and washing utensils. The young woman offered the young man to go and get to know her parents because that would be better for her. Then the young man accompanied her to her house in the village. The young man was astonished when he saw the old house in which Tanya lived. He got to know her parents and her sick brother who was lying in bed, and he invited them to attend the wedding. Then he immediately returned to the city. He did not like to be in contact with these poor-class people. The two continued to live with each other, and Stanislav noticed that Tanya is an energetic young woman who knows how to cook. As for the young woman, she noticed that many things have changed in the young man since her meeting with him. He became quiet and did not go out to sleep outside, just as he started to go to the store and buy all the things as if he was supervising a family. The young man tells his future wife that he did not do this before her arrival, and he does not believe what is happening in his life. The young man started getting attached to Tanya, and one day, while they were driving around in his car outside the city, he told her that he liked her. But the young woman was silent, even though she liked him too, and told them that they could not marry because he was rich and had everything, and she was just a poor young woman who's looking for money to save her brother's life. Meanwhile, the young man stopped the car in the middle of the road and asked her to get out of it immediately, and that he changed his mind and would not marry her and would tell his parents that he had canceled everything. The young woman was shocked, got out of the car, and kept walking on the road in the very cold, while the young man left in a hurry to his parents' house and spent the night there. In the morning, he entered the kitchen to have breakfast and carried the newspaper that his father had left there. And when he was browsing it, he was surprised by the news that wolves had attacked a person in the forest. The young man grabbed his head and made sure that the forest that they talked about in the article is the same forest in which he left Tanya the day before. Then he took his phone and called her, but her phone was switched off. The young man went out panting, got in his car, and immediately headed to Tanya's house and immediately knocked on the door, wishing that the person who had been devoured by the wolves was not Tanya. When he opened the door, Stanislav saw Tanya standing and looking at him with a gloomy face. Then he sat on his knees and apologized to her for what had happened on the previous day, and told her that he loved her very much and wanted to marry her really and take her to live. She changed his life in a matter of a few days and made him feel responsible. Then the young woman grabbed him and asked him to stand up and kissed him and told him that she fell in love with him from the first day they spent with each other and that she would be happy to live with him.